Hi everyone, my name is Kanishka, and a few weeks back I posted a video in which I talked about my CUET PG preparation, the resources I referred to, how much I scored, etc. So there were a few questions and doubts that were raised, so I thought of clearing them in this video, and I'll go a little more in depth about how I made the notes and the mistakes I did that I wouldn't recommend anyone to do, etc. So yeah, so beginning with answering the most asked question, that how I made my notes, if I could share my notes, etc. So first of all, as I've mentioned it previously as well, that I referred to the paid batch of Malviya Academy. I started with that this time around last year, like August of 2025. I deliberately started preparing this early because I was in my third year of college and I wanted to start my masters right after my graduation. So I gave it like 8 to 9 months. Since I was in my college, I couldn't devote 8 to 9 hours each day. So practically, it was possible to give 2 to 2.5 hours each day after my college. So that's why I started in August. If you are watching this video around this time, this is a great time to begin. Even if you're watching it a bit later, even if there are 2 to 3 months left, CUET-PG is not a very difficult exam because it tests your exam knowledge, it tests your subject knowledge which you might have covered in your graduation. However, I wanted to clear certain of my concepts as well. That was the only reason I took that coaching, because initially I was referring to certain books that I saw on YouTube for like listening to other people. However, I felt that that is not something that was working for me, and I wanted a clear, like structured pattern of for the exam. So that's why I decided to go ahead with that. And regarding the notes, I was given the notes for each unit, each topic. So I am personally someone who can go through them and reread them again and again, and I was not someone who made my notes separately. I underlined things in them, like, and yeah, so I cannot obviously share those things because first of all, that those are not my notes. Second of all, I have like underlined those so much that those are not readable now. So yeah, however, as I've mentioned before too, a free channel that I refer to, which is equally effective, I can share those notes. So I have created my own Telegram channel. I'll post I'll put the QR code. You guys can join this channel, and I'll share all those resources that I'll find, and anything, any guidance if you guys require, I'll be happy to help. So that clears the first question regarding my notes. Talking about the time I devoted, so I have like briefly explained this too, that I didn't start it separately. I began studying for it alongside my graduation degree. So in the first, like in the fifth semester, I was consistent with my college too, as I wanted to enjoy the last year of my college too. However, in the sixth semester, I didn't attend my college from January to maybe March, like around 2 months. I wouldn't advise anything like this to anyone, that you may miss classes or anything. It of course depends upon your pace, how much are you done with your preparation, how much you can retain those things. So yeah, uh, one thing that I wanted to say is that uh, not a drawback, but when, like, since I started preparing for it this early, like 9 months, 8 to 9 months early, uh, till the end there were certain concepts that I started forgetting. So this is where the most important thing comes, that is continuously revising things. Even if you have studied the concept, if you do not revise it and retain those concepts near to the exam, that preparation wouldn't even matter a bit, because ultimately you need to memorize things and need to remember those things in your exam. So preparing for it is a different thing, but revising and practicing MCQs is a different thing. That is the only thing that matters. And yeah, so I, like myself, revised the whole syllabus 8 to 9 times, which might sound a lot at this point of time, but when you do that, when you have enough time and when you have the zeal to clear the exam, that wouldn't even matter. There would be people who might have revised it even more than I did. So now, talking about certain mistakes or tips that I would say that some people do not follow. First of all is maintaining a balance between factual understanding as well as rote learning certain things. So, since it is an objective exam, this year in 2026, the exam was more towards the objective side, in the sense that there weren't many facts that were asked. I mean, there were the only the facts that were asked, and not the conceptual clarity was required that much, to the extent if we compare it with previous exams. But I would say that the pattern changes each year, so you have to maintain that balance, that you know the concepts as well as you know, I've learned all the dates, years that are required, especially in the part of international relations, because international relations is sometimes very unpredictable. There will be certain topics that are repeated every year, like talking about SARC, ASEAN, NAM, and UN. These topics are repeated each year, so that is something that you can predict only by analyzing the PYQs. And another mistake that I have seen is how people analyze PYQs. First thing first, the exam won't have exact similar questions. The topics get repeated. So like last year there were 30 to 36 questions that were repeated. People say like that, but this doesn't mean that the exact questions are repeated. The concept is repeated. You'll find various questions from the options. So like in the MCQs, when you have 4 options, you need to practice those things as well. So when you will practice the MCQs, the PYQs multiple times, you'll get to know that the questions are asked from the options as well, because the options are the probable questions that might be asked in the upcoming exam. Because at the same time, the syllabus isn't changed. There will be topics that will be repeated, there will be questions that will be repeated. So this is a very smart trick that people need to follow, and this makes a huge difference. This year too, there were around 18 to 20 concepts that were repeated. Yeah, so keep that in mind, that PYQs are a game changer. Regarding the constitution wala part, that is something that is very very easy in the sense that the constitution remains the same. There will be certain amendments that are made, but those aren't very those aren't in a huge number that the pattern could change for that part of the paper. You need to, so that there are certain questions that are fixed. There will be questions asked from fundamental rights, DPSP, fundamental duties, and the making of the constitution. So you need to analyze certain things and then smartly prepare for the exam. This isn't a very difficult exam, in the sense that you don't have to score full in the exam. This is a competitive exam. You don't have to do better for yourself, you have to do better than others. So every single question matters, because every question, for every right question you'll gain 4 marks, and 4 marks can make a huge difference in your rank, in your preferred college. So polity is something that you cannot afford leaving, even not even a single topic. So there are questions asked from judiciary, from panchayat, like local government. There are certain questions that are like fixed each year. So yeah, prepare those things, analyze things, analyze PYQs. This is a great time to start preparing for it. You can maybe make a mistake in Western philosophy or Indian philosophy, but constitution is something that like you cannot afford answering it wrong. Because now coming to another important topic, that is mock tests. So first of all, I'll tell you my honest story. There were certain mocks that I attempted in which I scored 285 out of 300, and I was on cloud 9. However, on the other hand, there was this one mock that I attempted near to the exam, and I didn't even cross 200 in that. So I was very disheartened, shocked, and all those emotions, because the exam was approaching. So at that moment, I thought of not attempting any more mock tests. I purchased the mock test series of ADA 24/7. However, there were certain, not every, but there were certain questions in those that I felt were a bit divergent from the syllabus, or very very theoretical. So since I wasn't inclined towards attempting those questions, I didn't attempt all those mock tests. the paid batch of Malvi Academy that I was a part of, they also gave certain mock tests. Uh, I appeared those tests, and there was this one question that I had attempted few days before my final exam, and that question, not the similar question, but the question with the same concept, that was from polity 2. So that was a very lucky thing, that I would say, that the same question got repeated. If you are someone who's watching this video right now in August, and if you are preparing and if you are attempting mocks and you are not scoring well, this is absolutely normal, and there isn't any single thing to worry about. You wouldn't have even completed your syllabus, so there is no point of expecting that you would score 300 out of 300 even before the exam. Like, even if you're watching this sometimes before the exam, like, I get that you get disheartened. Practice as many questions as possible. Go through YouTube videos, they'll provide you n number of MCQs. But if they're, and just analyze things upon, like, for example, if you have attempted a mock, analyze those. Do not look at your marks. Analyze the questions, analyze the concepts that you got wrong, and then practice upon those concepts even more. Revise it, re-revise it, learn those. This is the best way to attempt any mock exam and get the, like, prepare efficiently. So do not just look at your result. Even if you have scored 285 out of 300, you have still not scored full. Look at those questions that you got wrong, practice those concepts, re-revise those, so that in the final exam that you do not, like, get those concepts wrong. So this is, I think, for me, that worked the best, and this is, from people I've heard, the most efficient way to analyze mocks. And since I didn't refer to any separate books, this is the most amount of information I can give. If you have any other doubts, please put them down in the comment section. I have attached the link, the QR code of my Telegram channel. You can join that if you wish to. I'll try to share as many resources I can, as many notes I can, as many free notes that I find, and those are effective too. So that's it. Prepare for it very diligently. This isn't a difficult exam. I'll repeat it again. You just have to clear the cutoff, and for clearing the cutoff, every single question is important. Every concept that you get wrong right now is a great thing, so that you would remember to revise those concepts again. So my professor used to say this, that get as many questions wrong as possible in those mocks. Like, of course, those questions you do not know, not the ones that you know and you get those wrong, because the more questions you get wrong, the more motivation it gives you to revise those concepts again, so that you do not get those wrongs in the final exam. Like, even if you score 285 out of 300 in your mock, that wouldn't matter. You wouldn't get any college. And even if you score 200, that would again will not matter, because you won't get any college right now. You have to perform in the final exam. That is the only thing that matters. So yeah, thank you so much, and I hope I have made some sense and I could help. Even if I could help any single one of you, that would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much.